Okay. Welcome to Reality Coaching for Writers. Diana, what's our question today?
The question is, what is your why behind your writing? If you're blogging or a nonfiction writer, you really need to know your why, or you'll run out of steam.
I hate to even do this, but when you asked the question, what is the why behind your writing? If you look at yourself in the mirror, the backside,
okay,
it's a why. It's a why. You know, when you don't have your pants on, it's a why. That's the why. That's the why behind my writing.
Okay. So you'll edit this out. Okay.
No, we're going to leave it in there. Your backside, that's the answer to the question for me. Your backside is the why behind your writing. Because if your backside's not writing, sitting down writing, you don't have any writing. That's my answer.
Okay. So here we are.
Too much eggnog for Christmas. That's what it is. Too much eggnog.
Well, we always say no fluff, just the real stuff, right?
That's right. We got a lot of real fluff back there, real stuff. But go ahead. We really should. We should start over, but we won't. We don't have time. So we're going to talk about blogging today, right? Is that
yes.
part of
Yes. Okay. Yes. And publishing has gone through so many transitions in the 17 years I was agenting. So it's like I have seen publishers ask things of writers, and writers, try their best to step up and do the thing that was being asked of them. So many people started blogging because that's what everybody said was going to help bring attention to your books. Even fiction writers were being required to, show up and blog. And so for some, they are continuing blogging for years now because they found their niche. Like a fiction writer that writes historical fiction, they just write about research and how and that's something very helpful to the readers. So they're doing fine, but many blogs are out there in the netherworld, just hanging. They exist, but there's not been any content placed on those blogs for years because they didn't know their why for doing what they were being asked to do, and they didn't have a passion for it. And the biggest thing is you've got to find your why, and it's usually your passion. It's the thing that you are passionate about and that you have long-term commitment towards or long-term interest. You can't be switching up on your readers like this week I'm talking about helping the homeless, and then next week it's about political injustice, and then the following week it's about parenting. You know what I'm saying? You've got to find your lane and then ride that lane, and so that's what we're going to talk about today a little bit. Eddie, you blog, don't you?
Well, I do blog in it, but I went through the cycle of where the publishers, editors all said you need to blog to get your platform, and so I went through the cycle. I did the rodeo, and turned out there was no prize money at the end of the rodeo. It was just me out there riding a horse, and that was the end of it. And I had to return the horse. So so doing it just because it's part of your platform building, I found was just a complete waste of time, and it was stressful, and it was work, and it took away from writing the things I really wanted to write. So I do blog now, or I guess you could call it blogging. I think the reason I do it though, it's kind of like, okay, if it's not going to be in a book and my wife doesn't want to hear what I've got to say about this, and neither does anybody else want to hear what I've got to say about this, hey, I've got this space. I'm going to write about it anyway and put it out there. There, it's done. I did it, So in my case, it's almost like blogging on a street corner where nobody's paying attention, but at least I'm out there.
Yeah, it's a street musician. But every once in a while, somebody crosses your path and affirms that what you said and what you shared meant something to them.
Well,
right?
you would hope so. I've yet to have that really happen more than about twice, but again, it's, you know, you can't get any better. You can't get any better as a street musician until you're playing anyway. So even playing on the street corner, nobody says, great job, you're getting better at it. You know,
we're going to talk about the benefits, but in the why, and now we want to clarify that most of your writing, Eddie, is fiction.
Yeah, it is. But again, this is where probably I diverge from the focus of blogging, because I have to write what basically gets put on my heart. And if I ignore that, then nothing works. So my topics do have over the years changed. I like to write humor. I love to write humor, but we're in a culture now where humor is almost offensive. It's really difficult. Well, even the beginning of this conversation, right? I mean, the way I started this is the way my mind thinks, but I'm sure there are people that were offended by what I said, and that's the way it is with humor. So humorists offend just by what they say anyway, often. So I don't do as much humor as I'd like, because that's risky. And I do like to write fiction, and I like to teach about writing. But then there are other serious topics that I've got to get out there. So it's just, I think Stephen King, if he wrote about anything, people would still read it because of who he is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something, when I'm thinking of Seth Godin. Seth Godin wrote a book, and I forget the year. I should have had that for you, but we're going to put any resource we mentioned, any blogging platform that we're recommending, we'll post that information in the description list below. But Seth Godin wrote a book about tribes. It was called Tribes, and his subtitle was "We Need You to Lead Us." And I think, and it said that his book redefined what it means to be a leader today. And I love that, because he said, when you find your tribe, you can rally people around your idea or your passion. So the why would be your passion, but some of the ways to share your passion with others is to educate or teach. It's also to encourage your readers, but sometimes you're just providing a safe place for a fellow traveler on the journey, someone who's in the same place you are, and you're just talking about the journey, and people find you and you're relatable to them because, oh my gosh, you're like in my head. How many times have you heard a speaker and you're like, you're in my head, because you're talking my language right where I'm at. And those are the people that we tend to gravitate to, and we talk about finding our tribe. And I think that's a lot of what blogs offer. And for a while, publishing was saying, okay, stop the blogging because blogging is going by the wayside. It's now podcasting. But I have to tell you, blogs have never gone away. And because of, I think, this tribe thing where people gather around a singular idea and then they can talk and discuss with one another. And the pandemic reinforced it. People were looking for answers. People that knew, had an idea of something that wasn't unsure. They were looking for a foundation. They were coming back to some principles maybe from their growing up time. And so there was a big resurgence of the popularity of blogs and sites that offer blogging, multiple author blogging, which we want to put a pitch in for Inspire Fire.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a already built platform. All you have to do is just write and put your article up, and you've already got readers. It's basically like writing for a newspaper. The newspaper's published, it's out there. We're looking for more reporters, more feature writers, and the the platform's already there, the publication's already there.
Yeah, and that's a great entry point for people to try blogging. If you believe you have some things that are on your heart and things that you want to add to a conversation, or just an encouraging word you have for somebody, please look at Inspire Fire. We have the submission guidelines up there, and we could plug you into an open spot. And it's once a month. It's not a heavy commitment, and there's a lot of grace. Recently, a lot of people have been going through things, and they'll send an email, hey, I'm just not going to make it this month. We're not going to, first of all, it's not monetized. We don't pay you for your article. So we aren't going to punish you for, the times that you can't be there. But we do look for committed writers. But it's a great way to get your feet wet and play in the blogging atmosphere and see. Many of the writers have gone on to establish their own blogs, and they bow out and new writers come in. So it is a great platform.
Yeah, and I forgot, I looked at the stats this morning. I just pulled them up. I think, I don't know, the last 28 days, we've had like 20,000, viewers come to the site. So it gets a lot of traffic. I was going to go back to something you said about the blogging versus the podcast. I like listening to podcasts when I'm traveling. It's entertainment, it's relaxing entertainment. But as far as getting information from podcasts, I don't do it. And the reason I don't is because I can read and skim a blog much quicker than I can sit through the 30 minutes that people are going to sit through with us today. Right. If you're watching this and you watch from beginning to end, you're locked into 30 minutes that you're never going to get back. We better deliver some kind of content. Otherwise, you're going to go, I wasted my time. With a blog, you can hit it and skim the first couple of paragraphs and go, I like it or I don't like it, and move on. And you can do that in a minute. And I think that's one of the real values in blogging, as people can
I agree. And the thing is, too, is you will discover if what you're sharing resonates with readers by the engagement you get. I remember, when we had a Heartline blog and I was a contributing writer, and it would be funny because I knew I had a commitment to once a week show up and write a blog, and I loved doing that, but it was just fitting in my schedule. So sometimes, depending on what was being demanded of me in my traveling schedule, I would, just like hammer something out and put it out there and pray and ask the Lord to bless it. And it would be something I did not research heavy, did not spend a lot of time preparing. And it would be the thing that people would respond to and come back and go, wow, this really helped, blah, 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 and it would kind of blow up. It was good. And then there's other times when I spent a lot of time and I really practiced my, words, crafted my sentences so they were almost poetic, and then it would be crickets, and you're like, wow, okay. But even blogging, it's such a great indicator of what people are wanting and needing from you. And so it helps you, see what the reader's interested in. And so if you're going to have your own blog and people are responding to a certain topic that you've brought up, you might want to consider doing a 3 to 5 blog series, 3 to 5 posts on a series, because your readers are very interested. And, for you to prepare that and develop it and offer that great engaging content to your reader gives them value. Like you were just saying, Eddie, it offers value to your reader.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking the two on my eddiejones.org site, eddiejones.org. The joke is, I'm an organization all to myself, but anyway, that site, I think the two biggest trafficked posts I've ever had were Jesus 2033, which what I did is I just took a comment that I can't remember her name now. It's the congressman from New York that's part of the group of 4 or 5 that's a progressive, and I forget her name. They call her AOC or something like that. Anyway, she made a comment one time about, like I guess if Donald Trump was elected, Jesus would be coming back. She made that comment, something like that. So I came up with a way that Jesus could come back by 2033. I listed out the way events could play out. Well, that post continually gets traffic because people are like, well, the world's coming to an end, and they'll search, and apparently it comes up in the search result. The other one, Food Lion Trees. From like 5 years ago, Food Lion is a grocery store,
Right.
in the Carolinas, and like 5 years ago, I just made a little post about going to Food Lion and buying a tree for like $45. For some reason, every year that, especially this time of year, that post gets a lot of traffic because people are like, "What? Food Lion trees?" Right? But to your point, it's just one of those weird things that there was no thought behind that. It was just I went and got a tree from a grocery store.
That is interesting. That is. Now on Inspire Fire, Pirate Preacher shows up to write every once in a while.
Yeah, once in a while, when we can get them back in port. That's the problem with the prophets and the preachers. They're so pontificating that usually doesn't invite engagement. It's just you're sitting out there spewing.
Well, and there's the other thing. There's a way to invite engagement. And that's by not preaching, not that you do that, but I'm saying there are some blogs you read and it's just another voice preaching at you. Well, that is not going to invite engagement. What they want is relatability, and they want you can ask questions, you can share your own life experience, but when you present it in a sharing mode versus preaching mode, you will always get more engagement because preaching just shuts us down. And truthfully, who needs more? Because we're being preached at from a lot. Now, we have our own church pastors that we choose to listen to and put ourselves under, but then we have a lot of talking heads that are telling us what we need and what we have to have. And we tend to tune them out. Most people tune them out. So I think what you're saying about the way you can scan a blog, the way you can choose whether you want to be a reader of a blog is the presentation and how you present your content. But the biggest thing is you will become a better writer because you have to choose your words. You want to, and the wonderful thing, there are some concrete ways to begin, and you're going to choose a host site. And I think, Eddie, you and I would both recommend WordPress for a lot of bloggers.
Yeah, the concern I've got about it goes back to what Terry Whalen said. When you're using when you're on somebody else, when you're renting space on somebody else's site, they can always kick you off, right? That's the downside with using a site like WordPress as your blogging site. Now there's also WordPress software, which you can, and which is what I use we use it for Inspire Fire, and we use it for all sites. That's a different deal. You own the domain, you're having your site hosted somewhere else, and you just use WordPress as the software to run the site. That's what that is.
Right. Okay.
And that's what I recommend. I recommend you get a domain, try to get one for under $20 a year. And you'll spend that, and then find a cheap hosting provider for $10-15 a month to host your site, and then not spend a ton of money, but at least you own the content, and that way you can always go back and find it. That's
good,
what I would.
Good. Now, from what I understand, if you have a .com, someone else is hosting your site, and they have ultimate control. But if you have a .org, then is that not true?
None of that matters. A .org used to be, you had to be an organization, but they threw that out. I'm not an organization. We had a .net for a while. That's a network. Well, we're not a network. .us was, supposedly about you were supposed to be based in the US, but no, that's just a way of getting our domain now.
Okay.
So you own the domain, it's yours. You can host it wherever you want to.
Okay.
So
All right. So we're recommending WordPress software.
it's the most, probably the most hacked and hijacked software, site hosting software there is, because it's probably the most used site hosting software out there. So that's why. So if you're going to do it, you got to make sure you got somebody watching it to keep it from getting hacked. But it's pretty easy to set up and run. But anyway, we're down in the details. Let's talk a little bit about the
Right.
benefits.
And yeah, let's go back to the benefits. Good. I agree. So if you feel called to write something, you feel you have something to say to a certain group of readers, you know your audience. We've talked about that often on here about how important it is, fiction, nonfiction writers, to know who your audience is. Then, you know, if you're writing, you want people, it's called discoverability. You want people to find you. For instance, on Inspire Fire, they write under your own individual name. And so in the search engine optimization tools we use with our WordPress, we use Yoast, and you would put your name so that not only your topic comes up, but your name also. So you're discoverable. For instance, people that get to know Eddie, they are interested in other content he produces, so they would put his name in, and then if he's been written a blog, it'll come up. If he's written a book, it'll come up. So we're talking about discoverability, and a blog helps you and your thoughts be discoverable because it gives you an outlet. So under that, you can build authority and trust by blogging. You can, of course, make money, but that isn't our primary objective that we're discussing today. That's a whole nother thing. And there are many, if you just Google making a profit by blogging, you will find tons of articles to help you on that. But the thing we would want you to understand is it's a full-time job to make money at blogging. So don't think it's something simple. It's just easy come money. It's not. It's work, but it can be done. But the other benefit of writing a series while you're blogging is you can get content for a book. And we're talking a small book. What's your word count on a ground, that you're a ground book?
Yeah, so when I was writing those columns, the word count was anywhere from 800 to 1,000 words. That was the max because it was in a magazine. So there was only so much column. There was only so much column space. So they're all around 1,000 words, and I still kind of stick to that. And I know that's not the ideal. I mean, we've talked about this before. That now they want bloggers to write a little bit longer, but that's just, you know, the stuff that I write on the Eddie Jones site. Most of the new content is just fiction. It's it's the next book I'm working on, and it's just my way of putting it out there. It forces me to write the next chapter or the next scene, and I put it up on my site because, again, I figured nobody's going to read this but me. But at least I've got it out there. It's a deadline. I'm creating it, and but again, I'm trying to write short so that people can get all the way through it and go, okay, that was the beginning and the end of the scene. Done with it. Who knows when the next scene will show up? But there it is.
Right. Right.
Right.
But the whole book, so when you took those columns and you put them under a book cover, do you remember the word count of your book?
Yeah, it was like 35,000 words or something like that. Yeah.
And that's what I want to encourage bloggers to think about. Look at the topics that you're getting feedback on that are resonating with people. Consider doing a series on that. And then often that series can be developed into a small publishable book, like 15 to 20,000, 25,000 words. And because of, what do you think? I saw you go.
I'm sitting here thinking because I made I put something up on Facebook about, I don't know, it was I think it was a headline title, that it's a really funny headline title that I grabbed off CBS Sports, but it was risque, right? So I'm not even going to repeat what it was.
Okay.
but it led to a couple of comments with one of my former LPC authors, and we were talking, and it got down to the point where I said, well, this would be a great, I mean, what a great devotional, making whoopee based on the biblical guideline for making whoopee, the biblical guideline for making whoopee. And it just goes through the scripture and all the places where there's instructions for how we're supposed to make whoopee or who we can make whoopee with or whatever. And I was like, I promise you, if I write this, it'll sell. I know it will. I just know this one will sell. But again, it's like 500 words. You take a piece of scripture, what's the application for this one?
Right. Well, see, and so it is possible to put out small missiles or whatever we call them. Like, so what is the smallest word count that you would recommend calling a booklet or a book? And so
I don't know. Jesus Calling is pretty short. Oswald Chambers is pretty short.
No, I'm not talking individual chapters. I'm talking under the book cover.
Under the book cover? I've got a client right now at 15,000 words.
Okay.
10,000 words is probably the minimum. If you get much lower than that, people are going to think, why am I spending money for this? I can get it online. But
right.
15,000 word count. People are willing to spend $7.99 for a book if there's good content.
Yes, I agree. And so if you have something that you've been blogging about or an idea to test, then consider putting it out there, see what the reaction is from your reader, gauge the interest, and then take these blogs and put them under a cover and just polish them up a little bit. I'd pay somebody to take a quick look at it so that it's clean and it's well written, and then consider putting it out as a book and then offering it to your readers. So that's one of the, I think the key benefits are, first of all, it helps discover who you are and what you have to say. Your passion around an idea can then be gathered together and put under a cover, and you can offer people fuller thought and in their hand treatise of your ideas. And it can build a readership and build a platform if that's what you're going for, but you're using your gift, you're sharing your passion, and you're coming alongside your readers in varied formats. I think that's the key too. I mean, offering varied formats to your readers is valuable. For instance, Eddie, I purchased many of the Going Aground books for men that I knew that needed a devotional because it was a great devotional for men. And it still is. I'm putting that out there. It's a great devotional for men. I enjoyed it though,
Yeah.
But,
yeah. One of the reasons I have no problem blogging on my site, and I look at the site's, site impressions, and I go, I'm still kind of writing for myself. That's okay with me. That doesn't bother me at all. And that's kind of the advice I would give bloggers is, number one, if you're going to look at the impressions and how many people are visiting your site, before you do it, already have a plan in place. What are you going to do if the results are not what you hope? Because if it's going to discourage you, then I would say, don't look, just don't look. So there's that. The flip side of that is, if you keep writing your passion and you keep getting better, eventually I believe it will be blessed. At some point, I believe God will bless it. He'll bring you up a little bit higher. I'm thinking of Mary, the mother of Jesus. She did not set out to be the mother of Jesus.
Right.
She just set out to be someone who was faithful to the word and to the Lord. And that's all she was trying to do. And look the position she gained from that. And I think that's the reason we need to write as a blogger. If it's something you enjoy doing, then just do it and just expect at some point you may get elevated up to a larger platform. But even that's going to come with its own issues. Because now you're going to have people that are going to start attacking you for things you wrote 10 years ago that nobody ever commented before, and now suddenly you're in their bullseye. So even that's going to have its own issues.
Yes, and keep in mind long term, because everything you write today, it's going to be available years down the road. So, just consider that when you're putting your words out there, that these are going to be discoverable way past maybe when you change your mind about what your views are. Or
Yeah, and I think that's key. I think you need to be writing with that expectation that you are going to be discovered. You are going to be discovered.
Yeah.
So for that effort, make sure it's professional and great. You know.
Yeah, do everything with excellence, especially if you're putting the name of Christ on it. You definitely want that, for sure. So Eddie, what final words do you want to give to people that are considering blogging or in the middle of blogging and wondering if they're making a difference?
I would go back to what is that thing that keeps bugging you, that's under that thing that really gets you kind of upset, gets you motivated. You were willing to, like I said, you were willing to sit there and have a conversation with your spouse about this, even though he or she doesn't want to hear it. You know, you just can't let it go. You know, it might be sports. You know, I can't believe we've still got this coach. You know, if that's what it is, write about it. You know, if that's the thing that really bothers you. And it doesn't have to be a heavy topic. It's that one thing that just keeps bugging you. To your point earlier, the trend within readership and this nation right now is for people to be moving towards their tribes, people who think like they think. So if you write something, you are going to find some readers. They're out there. Just keep writing writing the way that you're already motivated to write would be my answer.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, we're going to put a list of resources below. ProBlogger.com is one. Laura Christensen, she can help you set up your blog, set up your website, all of that. There are so many tools out there, but if you're willing and your heart is to encourage others, consider looking at inspirefire.com. Are we .com? Inspirefire.com?
I think so.
I think so, because it goes automatic for me now, so I just wasn't sure. But just check us out. You might be encouraged, just become a reader. And always, if you're blessed by what someone's words, please leave a comment. And just if the only thing you say is, I needed this today, thank you, or this really blessed me, thank you, or just thank you. It means a lot to the writer. It's an encouragement to them, and it provides engagement that then helps the article come up and be more easy to be seen by other people that might benefit from that particular blog. So that would be my thing, is just remember to encourage the people that speak into your life, words of life and encouragement, and thank them.
Amen.
Okay. All right. Next week, we're going to interview Andy Lee, and she is going to share her blogging journey and how it's helped her develop her writing and led to bigger platforms for her. So we're going to enjoy that next week.
All right. Thanks, Diana.
Okay.
See you next week.